Hi, my name is John Olivas. I am the owner and operator of Jayco Outfitters in north central New Mexico. We do guided hunting and fishing trips throughout the state of New Mexico. So I am a former Mora County commissioner who was a champion behind the fracking ordinance to ban fracking within the boundaries of Mora County. Yeah, so as a native northern New Mexican, I'm fifth generation in my community, actually in my home. So there's these northern New Mexico areas, Taos Pueblo, Picoris Pueblo, those are my ancestry roots. They go back from my great-great-grandfather, great-great-grandmother, and so I'm fifth generation in my home. I've resided in Mora County since I was 14. So what I did is I moved. I was actually born and raised in Grants, New Mexico. The uranium mining industry was booming at that time, so my parents went to work for the mining industry. That's where I was born. So at the age of 14, I moved to Mora County, and I was able to reside there. I grew up in that community, and I graduated in 1989 from the Mora High School. So I stayed there for quite a while, and within rural northern New Mexico, you have to wear many different hats in order to reside in rural New Mexico. It's just kind of how it works out. So what I ended up doing is I ended up graduating from Mora High School. I attended a local college in Las Vegas, New Mexico, known as New Mexico Highlands University. So I graduated with my undergrad in biology, and I graduated with a master's degree in environmental science. So back in 1995 is when I started my career. I actually started as a fisheries biologist with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They have a fish and technology center in Mora County, which I did work for. So I was with them for about 3 years. After that, I went and I worked with Intel Corporation out of Rio Rancho, New Mexico, out of Albuquerque. So I was with that organization for about 5 years. I was a reticle engineer for them, and so at the same time I was building my business as an outfitter. And why am I growing roots in the city of Albuquerque when my heart was in natural resources, in the outdoors? So I ran my guiding and hunting outfitting service during that entire time, and I got big enough to where I could quit my job and I was able to move back home. Home being Mora County. I reside in a little community known as Home in New Mexico. Home in New Mexico is where my great-great-grandfather actually started to build a house, and I reside in that home right now. My house is probably 200 years old, so I have plenty of history within that community. As a native Mora County resident, my heart was always in public service. I would consider myself a public servant rather than a politician. I ran for several different positions in Mora County, including Mora County School Board, including Mora County Commission. So I ran several times before I actually won. So when I first started with the fracking ban, it was probably back in 2005, 2006, when a group of individuals within the community started educating people within the community about what fracking is and what oil and gas does to a community. So I started attending some of these meetings. And so I can recall when I was at one of those meetings to understand what fracking was, what industry does to a community. There was a question that was posed that was asking, we need to get into a lawmaking body to be able to do anything about this within Mora County. I can remember somebody saying, hey, is there anybody out there who's interested in running for Mora County Commission? So here I was at the back of the room raising my hand. I'll do it, you know, because within our community, there's only certain individuals that can get elected into those positions. You know, those individuals who actually started the discussion about fracking within Mora County were outsiders. You know, they came from communities where industry really came in and changed the dynamics of those communities. So when they came into Mora County, we're a rural, poor community, have deep roots, deep culture, deep traditions within our area. So when these groups started talking about fracking within the community, what happened is there was only so many people that could get elected into those positions. So I was one of the locals that, you know, attended and understood what those implications were. My academic background, I knew what, you know, environmental science, I knew what industry could do to a community. So I raised my hand. You know, in 2006, I first ran for county commission. I ran against an individual where our biggest issue at the time was our courthouse. So our courthouse was a big deal. There was a lot of money that was spent on it, and so there was an individual that I ran against, and I lost that county commission seat. So I was running on an open seat. I went ahead and ran, lost that position, and the guy that won, he ran on the idea of finishing this courthouse and getting it completed to get the county into its place. So at the time, I ran for the commission, I ran on the courthouse issue, I didn't get elected, but at the same time, there was an organization that was coming into our community. There was industry, oil and gas industry, there was Yates Petroleum, there was Chevron Mining, there was Phillips Petroleum. They were coming into our courthouse, into our clerk's office and our county assessor's office, and their interest was finding out who owned the mineral rights within our community. So in 2006 to 2010, that was one of the time frames where my position, District 2 for Mora County Commission, was up. And within that time frame, 2006, 2007, they identified 140,000 acres of leasable land within our county. So what happened is oil and gas came in, they negotiated prices for oil and gas leases within Mora County, and by the time I ran in 2009, there was 140,000 acres that were leased to oil and gas for 25 cents an acre all the way up to $1 an acre. So, you know, my biggest question during that time frame was, where are they going to get the water to frack these wells? My question is they have 140,000 acres of leased land, does water come with that? And the answer to that was, yeah, water does come with that. So what happened at that time was industry came in and negotiated. There were sections of land, 640 acres that were leased out for 25 cents an acre. You know, so what I did is I went ahead and I, you know, ran against the incumbent that had beat me in 2006. I ran for that position on the platform of no oil and gas in Mora County. I won that election. I beat the incumbent to get into my seat. At the same time, there was another individual, which we ran on the same platform, that we were going to go ahead and keep oil and gas out of our community. And by the time we got into our positions, that individual was not supportive of an outside ordinance that was put in place. When we were posing the idea of keeping oil and gas out of our community, we knew that there was going to be a legal challenge in place. So what the Community Bill of Rights did for us, it was actually presented to us by an organization known as the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund. CELDIF is what we called them. So there was a group of individuals out of Pennsylvania that provided us the framework for an ordinance to be put in place. And the whole reason behind the ordinance was so that if we did get challenged in court, which we knew we would, we were going to be able to defend it. So what we did is we took the ordinance that they gave us, that it defined the purpose of the ordinance, it defined the sections, it defined, all the details that we were going to need to do that. So what we did is we were pretty big on the idea of putting an ordinance in place. So there was actually a group of individuals from our county that included business owners, they included grazing permittees, they included acequia folks, they included land grant owners, they included business owners. So when we started putting this together, there was a great cross sections of individuals that came together to draft this ordinance. So when people come to Mora County and they say, well, you guys were just given an ordinance to put through your county commission, that was the farthest thing from the truth, because in March of 2010 is when we had the community together to draft this ordinance. It took us from March of 2010 up until September 2010 to draft this ordinance. So we went back and forth with SALDEF to get this right, make sure it had all the things that it needed to go ahead and get put through. So if you look at the ordinance recognizes the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo is a treaty between Mexico and the United States that protects traditional use rights. And those traditional use rights include fishing and hunting. They include pastura, or being able to graze your animals. They included access to water. They included access to the forest to gather wood to burn within your fireplace. So there was a lot of components that were instituted within that ordinance that we were able to stick into the ordinance and make sure that language was protected, because it was actually important to the people to make sure these traditional use rights were protected. So we did that. If you read the ordinance today, it was something that was drafted internally by the people, the sections, the purpose, all those different characteristics of that ordinance were a framework that was given to us, but our county drafted that ordinance. And the whole idea behind the ordinance was water protection. If you read the purpose of the ordinance, it's about protecting water. My question prior to getting into the county commission, where does the water come from? It comes from our own people.